It's been an impressive start to the season for NinjaTrader. Both pole positions, both fastest laps, and both wins have been collected by him in the opening 2 rounds. But running away with things will be a bit harder at a track like Road America. Will he be able to shake his rivals at this draft-heavy track? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 3 of the PRL GT3 series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Road America usually puts on a good show for just about any type of racing you can think of. Let's head to our track guide to learn why. Welcome to Road America. Nicknamed America's National Park of Speed, it's easy to see why just by looking at how the track is laid out. Long straights are a major feature, and drivers will build up incredible momentum before they find themselves interrupted by tight 90-degree corners. In fact, for a 4-mile circuit, it has shockingly few turns. It also has little in the way of variation in layouts. The main course is only broken up once with a single chicane added in the bend version. But don't take this to mean that it's a boring track. Elevation change happens many times over a lap, with a few places taking you into corners which are quite blind. But 2 of the turns on the back half of the course are perhaps the most distinctive. One is the carousel with its more than 180-degree radius. It just feels like it never stops. The other is the kink. Terrifyingly fast with very little runoff, it can end someone's race in a flash. As you'd expect, the heavy braking zones make for some ideal overtaking spots. Turn 5 sees plenty with its downhill entry. The hurried downs can offer drivers a chance at a sneak attack if you're brave, and then Canada Corner gives you one last shot before the lap is over. It's no wonder major organizations such as IMSA, IndyCar, NASCAR, and the SCCA all host major races here. All in all, many drivers rate this track as the best track in North America. Many who hop in the seat and try it can quickly understand why. Well, DJ, you take perhaps one of the most popular racing classes on iRacing, the GT3s, to one of the most popular tracks here at Road America. It's no wonder we've got a big field here today.
For sure, Joe. And Road America in these GT3s is going to be absolutely fantastic. There are plenty of areas to overtake. We've seen during practice some guys getting really gutsy through the fast right-hand sweeper of turn 1. Obviously, turn 5, always a good area to overtake, and you can't be remiss without mentioning the turn 12 of Canada Corner. But tricky areas as well. We saw some guys start to lose it under the Corvette Bridge in turn 6. That's always hard. And turn 3, that right-hander before the long straightaway leading down to turn 5, you've got to be able to carry just the right amount of speed through there to be able to get a good pass done. And the same goes for the final corner of turn 14. All in all, you may have long straights, but you're not going to have a whole lot of time to stop and think about it. This track will keep all these drivers on their toes.
There's no doubt about that, but we want to keep you on your toes and remind you that today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
The PRL GT3 series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulations. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Now, taking a look at the championship here today, it is currently in favor of NinjaTrader, as well. He's taken just about every point that he could grab. And because of that, you can see that it's a massive gap back to Lewis Goodway after only 2 rounds. 17 points is quite a ways. It's not a full win's worth, but Lewis has got to start fighting back. So Brett Thurman pretty close to Lewis, along with the tie that we've got for fourth place between Gallo and Flores. And then J.R. Williams, who was very quick in the warm-up today, rounds out our top 5. He could be a challenger for Utredes. We also have a teams championship that they compete in every season. DJ, why don't you run down that?
Well, as you can see there, SimMSA Esports leading the pack with 111 points, but SRT Esport Black close on their heels, only 6 points back with SRT Esport Blue, not too far back from them with only 14 points back. Davidson Motorsports Orange sitting back 23 points back from the leader. They're a little way back from third, but Radical LATAM Orange, they are right on the heels of Davidson. So while Uteris may be pulling away in the Drivers' Championship, this team championship very, very close for pretty much all the positions.
And don't forget, that's just as important to these drivers. A lot of bragging rights in that, because you need both drivers to be consistent and good with that one. But let's talk about where we sit today with our event. We are in round 3, as we mentioned. There's all different kinds of cars that you can race, not just these that you see listed here, but the new Lamborghini that has been added into the iRacing service. It's a 40-minute race, and also they have limited the fuel, even though it is an open setup, so you can expect at least one pit stop today. They have penalties that they will accrue if they get too many incident points. 11 will send them through the pit lane, and then they'll be disqualified if they go 6 more, up to 17. There's the bonus points on your screen that Utredes, as we mentioned, has gotten most of them so far. And he's not up at the provisional pole currently. In fact, I'm trying to figure out where he is currently on track. He's still hasn't set a time, interestingly. So number 10, still trying to get a clean one in. He's only set one time across the board. In the meantime, James L. David is our highest qualifier, DJ.
Yeah, David put in some good times as we watch David Flanagan crossing over the line with a 2:06.749. That'll put him in 12th. That independent driver doing a good job across the board. Here we go with Savard coming across very, very slow time. I think that's a warm-up. You know, Joe, we were watching in practice. These drivers were separated by absolute thousandths of a second, and here it is no different. Look at that gap between P1 and P2. David and Goodway separated only by a single thousandth of a second.
And then behind them, it's half a tenth back to Tremblay, 3/4 of a tenth back to Arnaud Genet. So the top 4 split by 0.131 of a second. This is going to shuffle around before all is said and done, I'm pretty certain. So watch Cochran come across the line. Goodway, he improves. I have to imagine that means he's going to jump to the top. No, Michael Davies goes even faster just behind him using his slipstream. And in fact, that gives Davies a large margin of 0.3 of a second.
One of the bigger margins we've seen between first and second here today, and you hit the nail on the head talking about that slipstream, Joe. That is the key to getting a good qualifying lap down as we watch Hugo Gallo putting a good time. Here comes LeBlanc trying to cross the line, currently in 26. Looks like he's going to be barely able to improve his time, only about 0.4 of a second. But the biggest thing to keep in mind during qualifying, it's open qualifying. Everybody's out on the track, so getting that slipstream down off the final corner and into turn 1 and off turn 3 into turn 5, gonna be mega in qualifying.
And you saw it right there. That was Utredes trying to get a little bit of a slipstream of Carp hitting. A 2:05.1 is going to put him on the pole ahead of Davies by 6/1000ths of a second. It keeps improving, but it is by small margins amongst our top runners. Flanagan in the 17th spot comes out of the final corner. Let's see if he can go quicker than that 2:06.7. He comes up to the line. 2:06.9. That's not going to do it for him, unfortunately. Switch back to Savard instead. One of only 5 drivers who have not set a time yet. Most of them have managed to get a clean one. A 2:08.1 puts Maxim about 32nd, it appears, as we watch Palacio. And he does go quicker. 2:06.078, 1/100th faster than his previous lap.
And there you see Melbron unable to improve. Same with Renas there. You know, it's absolutely agonizing coming down this straight, Joe. It just seems like it goes on forever as Costello able to improve his time ever so slightly. That run down to the start finish, it is so far down the straight, it seems like it takes you an eternity to get there. And when you are trying to put in that fastest lap time, you are just begging the car to get a little bit faster, to get there a little bit quicker.
For sure. As we watch strike cars, and then Tellez come up to the line. Tellez this time must have had an off track because that one did not count, unfortunately. Now, we saw a car head into pit lane. Not a place that you would expect to have difficulties, but we've often seen, as we go to Chad Irvine, our pit reporter today, often seen, Chad, that it seems pit lane is a common problem here.
Yeah, it's especially here in qualifying, you want to try to stay out of drivers behind you, stay out of their way, and it's so far off to the right. You got that hill, the elevation changes to deal with as well coming in. It's really about just hitting your marks, hitting your braking point, and not letting the hills, the elevation change. And there's a little bit of a bump there on the left side as well as you come into the pits. If you can keep away from all of that and keep your brakes, keep them from locking up, you can definitely get yourself out of trouble. And a good stop here definitely means a lot, especially when you only have to take fuel.
Watching Kenny Rodriguez now, and that is a slow lap, it appears, so that's not going to be any quicker. Trying to see if any of our front runners are on a quick one, as Lewis Goodway is slow. Brett Thurman, who we see in 12th, not going to improve on his time, sadly, either. Still got a little bit of time left, granted only about 2 laps worth of time on the clock here.
Yeah, Joe, this track, obviously everybody talks about it as, woohoo, as Rins decided to have a very fun excursion there out of turn 14. But everybody talks about how this is sort of the European-American track. It is a super, super long track, one of the few American road racing circuits that has an over 2-minute time. So very, very long. You've got to maximize everywhere you can because you're not going to get that many laps here in qualifying.
And another one that did not count, so he'll cycle back around. He still holds that pole by about 6/1000ths of a second. Michael Davies is coming up the hill and over the crest. Let's see what the 75 can do. We'll see if this one is going to be good. No, another one that's had an off lap for him. So that one gets dashed away from the timing sheets and not going to count.
And there we see Diego Morales coming across the line on a warm-up there. James LeBlanc going to be trying to push. He doesn't have a whole lot of draft partners, so that's not going to help him. He does not improve at all. Lorente now coming across the line. He looks like he is on a warm-up. Here comes Zambelli also on a warm-up as well. But something to keep in mind there, behind him is J.R. Williams. That was one of our fast runners during qualifying. JR has not been good. He is currently in 9th, just able to improve his time a little bit, but he now has some draft partners around him, so watch for him to pop up the charts. As there you see Gallo. That lap can't be right. It's 123. There we go. It's a 205 from Gallo, putting him in 10th.
Interestingly, as we've seen a few of our Lambos come through, our highest qualifying Lamborghini currently is James David, who just recently abandoned a lap, so he's coming around to try and set one more flyer in the dying stages. But he's being beat by 3 Audis, and then he's got one more Audi behind him, so it seems like the R8 is the car to be in today.
Very much so. That twitchy R8, if you are able to get it under control, it is a fantastic car on any sort of circuit. As there you see Savard unable to improve his time. But as we always talk about when we talk about these GT3s, it is so twitchy. It's so tricky to get under control. You've really got to wrestle it and master it. Be very, very fine with your precision. But a lot of these guys, Utreras, Davies, Goodway, and Morales, all clearly having a good time with those Audis.
A lot of drivers that are missing laps here, pushing it that little bit too hard, because iRacing does not allow you to count it if you go beyond the racing borders. Julio Palacio going to be the next one in the SRT Blue machine. The 194, that's his best one, a 206.051, but he does not go up any positions. He stays P14.
And here comes Hotham across the line. He is on a warm-up lap, so this is going to be his last flying lap. These guys that you see coming across the line here. So Les looks like he is not going to be able to improve. These guys coming across here, this will be their final lap as Morales goes to the top of the charts.
he got a little bit of that slipstream, and it seems to have helped him enough that he's got 3 100ths over Utretis, and Utretis just left, which means he cannot improve, so he will not be our pole sitter. Morales has a good shot here. Zambelli comes across the line and improves by a little bit. This is Tony Costello in 17th, and a 206.303 is going to be his quickest so far.
And there you see Shellington going into that pits, that tricky pits that Chad was talking about. But here comes Ron Fusey across the line, seeing what he can do. He is unable to improve, off by about 0.2 of a second, under 30 seconds to go here. These guys will be able to finish these flying laps, so the action is not over yet here at Road America. There goes David, starting a flying lap as well.
Here comes Michael Davies, sits in third. He looks the most likely to try and overtake Morales, but it's another lap that does not count. Flanagan next across the line, half a second quicker than his last time. Nicely done there. So the checkered flag comes out. Brett Thurman appears to be the first one to take it. He's towing along Genet. Doesn't look like he wants to be as he weaves back and forth a little bit. But regardless, he's going to complete the lap. 206.1 will be quicker. But he stays in 16th, while Arnaud Genet does not improve on his time despite getting some help.
No, and here comes Flores coming across the line. His current best of 206.1. Ooh, 206.6 from Flores. That's not going to be a better improvement from him. As here comes Keaton. Looks like he had potentially an off track there, so that's not going to count for him. Here, that's Shallington parked in the pits like we were talking about. A few cars to still come across the line here. You can see Rinez's time there. Ooh, big twitch out of the Lambo coming through the kink. Here comes Hotham across the line. Could he have it? He does. That's a 206.8. That's going to bump him well up the charts to 21st.
Strykars and Lorente both just wrecked at the very end of their qualifying laps, unfortunately. And that leaves, I believe, Mignon. Yeah, here he comes, the 431, taking the Lambo up the hill. He currently sits on a 206.970 and down in 26th position, a 206.4. That is his best by far, up to 19th. At that point, LeBlond, and is there anybody else behind him? I think James David has a chance for at least one more try, as the 20th place car has a 206.7, and that is going to stay his fastest.
And here comes James David. Near enough pits. He's not going to take the lap, as it looks like one of our Flanagan, he does have it. Can he keep it straight out of turn 14? Gets the power down correctly and powers his way up the hill, trying to beat a 206.281.
Another new GT3 car here on the service, the BMW M4. And it looks like a 206.1, a 10th quicker, but that doesn't give him a spot. He was 4 1,000ths off of Brett Thurman's time in 16th. That will be it for our qualifying. Let's go through our starting order today, and someone has managed to knock Utretis off of the pole for once. Top spot for Diego Morales with Javi next to him in second. Michael Davies will start third, followed by Lewis Goodway in fourth position. Then it's James David in P5, followed by Jorge Flores in 6th, Jean-Marc Tremblay in 7th, and Arnaud Genet in 8th. Row 5 has Jared Williams to his inside and Hugo Gallo to his outside.
Starting off in the 11th place is going to be David Menino, followed by Aldo Secklin outside of him in 12th. Jose Melbron will be 13th, followed by Julio Palacio, Kyle Strykars, and Brett Thurman behind him in row 8. David Flanagan will be on the inside of row 9, followed by Tony Costello, and then Philippe Mignon in 19th, followed by James LeBlond in 20th.
21st goes to Ron Fusey, followed by Brian Hotham. I'm going to get that one right eventually in 22nd. Kenny Rodriguez starts P23 with Anthony Carbone Jr. in 24th. And it's Matt Hilton in the quarter century mark, followed by Eduardo Lorente in 22nd. Jay Shallington, another new name that we're seeing this season, starts 27th. He's got Barry Cochran in P28 and Luis Zambelli in 29th. Keaton Marcheschi rounds out your top 30.
Jordan Walker will be 31st, followed by Maxine Savard in 32nd. Christopher Reens in 33rd, followed by Spencer Semkowicz in 34th. Telez will be 35th, followed by Brian Rossi, Patrick Cowgill, and Drew Deweese in 38th. And then rounding out your 20th and final row here at Road America, Gary Schilling and Nicholas Nolivos.
Waiting for them to take off on the pace lap here. Going to be a while to get around this track, which is actually pretty ideal conditions today. It's only 89 degrees Fahrenheit on the track's surface. So not going to expect too many drivers to struggle with the heat or getting the tires warmed up. It's kind of a Goldilocks condition today, and not even too much wind either. I kind of wonder, though, with how many drivers we saw having off tracks, DJ, during the qualifying, if that 11 incident limit is going to rear its ugly head and send some drivers through the pit lane.
It certainly could, Joe. You know, one of the things about Road America is keeping up the speed around some of these fast and flowing corners, looking at things like turn 1, turn 14, even to a large degree coming through the hurry downs of 7 and 8. You can cut the course a little bit there if you're not careful, or more importantly, run wide on the exit. And that's where a lot of these guys are getting it. Turn 14 and into turn 1, very easy to run wide. So we may actually see those penalty points coming into play. I hate to see it, but it's certainly a thing, I think, especially mid-pack on down.
So you're saying you hate to see it? Sorry, I couldn't resist the joke. You set it up. It was there. I had to get the slam dunk. Meanwhile, we finally take off behind the pace car as they lead Morales around. Now, obviously, this is not dire circumstances for Utredes, because he still starts on the front row, and that's, I believe, a single bonus points for the pole, as they've also got the bonus point for the less than 3 incidents, as well as the fastest lap. So he can take those, but he's got 17 over Goodway. And where did Goodway qualify again? 4th place. Okay. So Goodway could still try and overtake him today. He's within range. He'll see him right ahead of him at the start, but unfortunately, his rival's going to have track position when they hit the green flag.
Yeah, and that track position is going to be important. That quick sweeper to the left, a nice brush break corner. You really don't want to be on the outside for that. Very easy to get hung out. So I wouldn't be surprised, though, if we see a couple of drivers decide to play those first 2 corners a little bit safer and try to maximize coming off of turn 3 and get a good slingshot down the straight, diving into the left-hander of turn 5.
Look at how big this pack of cars is, too. 40 of them on the track. So the other worry, I suppose, is lap traffic out there today. It is only a 40-minute race, which is a pretty quick sprint, but I suspect we're going to see at least a few of them be overtaken by the leaders.
Most certainly. And as long of a lap as this is, it not only does create wide disparity across the field, but what it really does is it just separates everybody out. So thankfully for these lead cars that are going to be coming up on the lap, guys, you're not going to be having the necessarily packs like you would at some other circuits like a Road Atlanta, for example. But you really want to be hoping that you're going to catch these guys at the right point. You catch them through the hurry downs, you catch them anywhere between turn 5 and turn 8, it can really throw you off. And these cars aren't super duper high downforce like a single-seater open wheel car, but if you catch them at the wrong point coming through the carousel where they are right now, it can affect the handling of your car. You'll have to back off a little bit, change your line, and that could cost you tenths of a second a lap. And if it's a close battle at the front, that could be the difference between a win and a loss.
Difference could be a big part in the championship story, especially seeing how easily we've already got a gap for Javi Utredes here up at the top of the points. Everybody's going to be trying to put a target on his back and see if they can beat him to the checkered flag each week and claw him back in as they come through the kink down towards Canada Corner. See through the kettle bottoms all the beautiful foliage that they've recreated here in the sim. Another thing that I love about this track is just the scenery is gorgeous, and really definitely gives you a sense of speed in these cars as they whiz by the trees on either side. Out of Canada corner now, and up and over the very blind Bill Mitchell bend. Can certainly elicit mistakes, slightly off camber, and could catch a few drivers out throughout the day. What is Morales going to do off the start? Will he go early, or will he try to wait to minimize the effect of the slipstream down the front stretch? The Porsche pace car is well in front of him. They're all checking up behind him, waiting for him to go. Pace car is in. And he's gone. Diego Morales. Oh, we've already got contact between Utredes and Davies. And thankfully it did not come to blows, but then they almost touched once again down the front stretch. Incredible. We haven't even hit the start-finish line, and 2 times, second and third, have come together. They make it to turn 1, at least without wrecking. And so far, so good as the field all piles in. I'm not seeing any wrecks throughout the field. That could have gone so much worse there, DJ.
Oh, I was definitely hooting and hollering during all of that. And if you look in the back of that pack, I want to give massive kudos to James David, who literally has been running 2 wide since the very beginning of this race. But here they come down here into the Moraine sweep and the left-hander. This is that slipstream effect that I was talking about. You can see the cars starting to line their way out. That is Flores up and officially by David, trying to hunt down this lead pack of 4 Audis.
Oh, we do have one spinner in turn 5. That appears to be Hotham. But otherwise, I just got clipped by a couple cars and no real serious damage amongst the field. The first lap is going okay-ish, at least up until this point. Still got a bit to go. So cross your fingers and cross your toes. Up at the front, it is Morales. And I think we had someone else with an issue. Kenny Rodriguez seems to have spun out off in the hurry downs.
Yeah, both of those guys, looks like they just spun off, not a whole lot of damage to them, so they'll be able to keep going. But there you see the rear ends of those cars. That's a great shot by our camera guy, Dougie Beard. You can see the rear ends just slipping out, coming around the kink as they line up here for Canada Corner. One of the trickiest corners on this track. You always think it's slower than it actually is. There they come, single file, screaming on down. Morales trying to pull a bit of a gap away. He's got about a half a second up on Davies as is.
You have to imagine that pulling that gap would be critical at this point as well, DJ. Just trying to keep from forming a train. Oh, we got a spinner in there, and that is Flores.
It is Flores indeed, Joe. I talked about it at the beginning. You get a little bit wide coming out of 14, and you can spin yourself right around. And there you see Jorge just waiting for everybody to go by, being a good heads-up driver there, not wanting to get an unsafe rejoin. But so that's exactly what happened. But back at the front, there you can see what that draft can do is these guys start to pull in a little bit more here through turn 3. And this is the big draft center. Everybody running a little bit wide on the exit of 3, however.
Basically got a 4-car breakaway up at the front. Morales, Davies, Utredes, and Goodway before you get about a 1.5-second gap to David. Down into turn 5. None of the top 4 seem interested in trying to make it past, though.
No, I think they know this is a long race, and they don't really want to press their advantage. Davies just looks like he is stalking Morales, just trying to figure out where he's fast, where he's a little bit weaker, lining up a pass for later in the race.
Got some good battles with J.R. Williams back in 10th place. Very close fight amongst him, Secklin, Malbron, and Palacio. Oh, we got a car spinning behind him as we go to Gallo now, who has some connection issues. This is the car that I saw spinning with 69 of Thurman. Unfortunately, did he have some help here? I'm trying to see.
So there you see them. Oh, no, it looks like he just got the right front tire off going into the hurry downs, and that'll spin him around. If you're on the brakes like that, Joe, so easy to lock up when you get a little bit of different surface on the tires.
And that tiny little bob that you saw is what cost him many positions. Meanwhile, we're looking at Williams once again, sitting in 9th. And did we have a wreck in Canada Corner? Yes, we did. That is the number 16, and that's someone else, not quite sure who. But Anthony Carbone Jr., unfortunately, falling down to 29th after it looks like he got in a little bit of a tussle. We'll try and send Chad down pit lane to see if he can figure out what happened between them and have him report back to us. In the meantime, here we go again. J.R. Williams versus Secklin. Oh, and Williams is going to go off. He's going to slide back on, narrowly get avoided. Oh, but it triggers a wreck just in front of him. Multiple cars, strike cars, and somebody else involved.
Oh, that was a big hit there from Strikars. You can watch this replay. There, see Secklin going down to the inside. That psychs out Williams ever so slightly. He goes off into the kitty litter there, tries to regain, and I thought that was a full head-on impact there from Strikars. Looks like he just had to swerve to get out of the way and ran into another car on his left.
Oh boy, and you can see he immediately took a tow. It was a hard hit. Unfortunately, we're going to watch it one more time. Yeah, he thought he had avoided the worst of it, and unfortunately the car behind did not get the memo. As we come back live, Morales still leads at 0.7 of a second over Michael Davies. So Davies just about clinging to the edge of that slipstream, much closer to the back of him. Utretis, the winner of the first 2 rounds, still hunting him down, trying to get back the second spot that he lost at the very beginning of this race.
And Joe Utretis was able to set the fastest lap of the race last time out with a 2:05.610, so he is clearly on the hunt right now, really trying to hassle Davies, force him into a mistake, have him run a little bit wide, but Davies, a wily veteran, he knows not to fall prey to that. They work their way through turn 14. There you can see just that brush brake you have to do. Get onto the throttle, take it a little bit wide, don't get onto the grass, and see what that slipstream can do for you.
Right now the slipstream's looking good for at least 2 of the cars. That's Utretis and Goodway. Ride on board currently with Utretis, looking up at Davies, but it's not enough. They run out of the front stretch into turn 1. He's going to have to try harder than that. He's certainly got some time to do it. 33 minutes left on the clock here currently. Ooh, and Utretis very strong into turn 3. Can he keep that speed up on the exit? It's looking good so far, DJ.
It's looking very good. You saw that little kick up of dirt there from Davies. I think that cost him maybe a 1/10 of a second on corner exit. So here comes Utreris. Is he going to try to make a move into turn 5? No, he's going to be nice and easy here. Backs it on off. Goodway behind him doing the same thing. There you see them come out, working their way up to the Corvette bridge here. You do not want to make a move through there. There is only one good line through that corner. If you try to do anything else, you will get offline. But look at that gap through Sector 2. Utreris is able to pull in.
Definitely applying some pressure to the number 75, which is good news for Morales, because I'm sure he'd love to see them fight. He's got it up to 0.8 of a second now, so he's steadily stretching himself out of reach of that trio behind him. They come out of the carousel up towards the kink. Can he do any more to it? It's 0.9 now for a brief moment. One of the fastest corners on the track, and all of them safely through to Canada Corner here. Davies still not under threat, but probably looking in the mirror more than he is looking ahead for sure.
Utreris maybe kicking himself slightly. You see him trying to take advantage of every inch of the track and actually running a little bit wide going into the kink. I think that cost him maybe the advantage of the draft. Ooh, big wiggle there from Davies as they work their way through Bill Mitchell Bend. Don't think that's going to hurt him too hard, but here comes that brush break of 14 back onto the power down the main straightaway. This three-car draft train, Davies, Utreris, and Goodway, really starting to stalk each other.
Seems like they just, with them all being outies, nobody has enough of an advantage in a straight line to try and do anything. And they come out of turn 1 once again. Very close. Good lunge into there from Lewis Goodway. It wasn't enough to get him a position. Let's see, maybe he can size up the corner exit out of 3. No, but I think Utreris did. He is about a car length and a half back from the number 75. There you can see him start to look left just a little bit. Is he going to poke his nose out once more? Davies actually goes slightly defensive down to the corner. There goes Utretis, but he isn't close enough. He has to give up the apex.
Yeah, I don't think that was a full-hearted pass attempt there from Utreris. I think that was just a little bit of a mind game on Davies, trying to psych him out ever so slightly. The mind games that go on in the cockpit. But there you can see that little bit of a mistake has allowed Goodway to catch back up, and now it looks like that's the tighter battle between these two. So everybody keeping it very, very tight, but very calm and collected here from these top four. Nobody wanting to make a mistake that they know that there's still about 30 minutes left to go in this race.
We've already had some hard chargers. Eduardo Lorente in 15th is up from 26. Cochran goes one better, 26th to 15th. We've also got Hilton from 25th to 17th. And then how about Keaton Archeschi? He went from 30th to 18th.
Yeah, guys, really taking advantage of some of the offs that people have had, as well as just slicing and dicing their way through the field. As there you see Keaton coming out of the carousel, one of the few Ferraris that we've seen actually be able to put his way up towards the middle of the field. A lot of these guys just running in the middle of the pack. Ferrari, a lot of times considered sort of the most driver-friendly car, the most neutral. There's not a lot of crazy oversteer, and it's not like the Mercedes where you feel like you're driving a boat the whole time.
Things getting even closer for second place. Utretis has got another good run on Davies. Does he dare try and make a move into the first corner? He's going to take a look at it, but once again, Michael is going to cover him off. Oh, he breaks too late into the turn. Gave him the old shake and bake, and it's going to give him the spot. In fact, it'll lose him two. Lewis Goodway gets down to the inside of his SRT teammate. And just like that, in one corner, two positions go away. Can he get one back? It's a good exit here, DJ.
He can indeed, and he's going to be right up the tail of his teammate. These two are not going to want to run together. That's going to be a very, very angry post-race room. He thinks about going to the inside, but there you see Goodway. No, that's Goodway going down the inside of Utreris into turn 5. Little bit of contact. Utreris able to keep the corner, but here comes Davies fighting back on Goodway. Looked like he was going to go for a move, but Nick's better coming over the Corvette bridge.
Eyes were bigger than his brake pedal, unfortunately, and Lewis Goodway has to give that one right back, but it was a valiant try. At least it did not come to tears between the pair of them. Your new order is Utretis in second, Goodway third, and Davies in fourth.
And that gap from Morales up front up to over 2 seconds. So Utreris is going to be trying to claw that back right now. He still stands as the fastest lap of the race, but his last lap down the pace on that with all that scrapping. But Joe, you can see there the gap he's already starting to put over Goodway, although that little bit of running wide there into Canada corner can't help him, but he's been doing it lap in and lap out, so what do I know?
If it works and you're not wrecking and it's giving you speed, I guess keep doing it. Meanwhile, obviously, with some of the wrecks that we have mentioned, we've lost a few drivers. And Chad, I do see a few on pit lane. Who currently is sat, unfortunately, trying to bang away at the sheet metal?
Yeah, it looks like James LeBlanc, who's in one of the earliest incidents in the race, he is in the pits right now. J.R. Williams there as well. He's only one lap down. Anthony Carbone looks like has dropped out. The other drivers still in the pit lane include Ron Fusi. And unfortunately, these guys are just trying to log some laps out here and get their damage repaired as they try to get back out there and get some laps logged for the rest of the race.
Let's see if they can score a few points. They do. They are allowed to score points if they complete 50% of the laps. So there is reason for them to try and get out there. Meanwhile, we've been looking at this 10th place, but now it's different drivers. Malbron, Palacio, and actually, is it still for 9th? No. Oh, excuse me, Gallo. Now I can see who it is on my timing screen. The number 23 chasing the pair of them. Ferrari trying to catch the Bimmer and the Audi. So far, no such luck down the Moraine sweep. Malbran seems to have pretty good speed, and as they break into that left-hand turn 5, all of them taking completely different lines on the entry.
One of the amazing things about that corner, Joe, is you can take those multiple lines, but I want to point out the heads-up play from Malbron going down that long straightaway. You saw him sort of fade to the middle of the track a little bit. Now, that's not necessarily a defensive maneuver trying to prevent Palacio from going to the inside on the corner. Instead, he's just subtly trying to break the draft a little bit, and it worked for him. He's able to keep that gap in front of him, but Palacio definitely has... Oh, as there goes Malbron around, and Palacio moves up.
Car just started to go. That was kind of bizarre, to be honest. Let's watch from on board, see if we can tell what's going wrong here, DJ, because it's like the rear just started going and he couldn't do anything to stop it.
Yeah, it looks like, and this is maybe a little bit of speculation, Joe, but I think he may have tried to get on the throttle a little bit hard and a little bit early through the carousel. Normally when you do that, you experience understeer coming through that corner that the nose just wants to keep going out, and it looks like that time he just put the throttle too hard. The rear started to break away, and that left rear got onto the grass and just spun it.
Bad news for fans of Hugo Gallo. He outbraked himself into Canada corner. Single car incident, he's still going, but he's also had internet connection issues, so he is not having the best of days, unfortunately. Looking at second place once again, Davies doesn't really seem to have the pace that he's wanted. Now that they've gotten by, Goodway and NinjaTrader are kind of focused on one another. Look at this. It's a battle for P2 still, but it's down to 2 cars instead.
Yeah, Davies just not really able to hold on to the back of those cars. There you see Goodway poking his nose a little bit, trying to psych out Utreras. And in front of them, Morales able to pull that gap back up to about 2.3, 2.4 seconds. So he is very, very calm and collected in the front. He's really just running a race of his own.
As they come through turn 7 into the hurry downs. And braking for turn 8. This is essentially the back half of the course now. Lots of elevation change through here. You'll see them work their way down through the carousel as it plunges and drops and drops and drops before it finally compresses and reaches a straightaway here up towards the kink. And that was a great run from NinjaTrader. Look at the gap that he pulled just through that one corner on Goodway.
Really, really good, and there you go. You can see the rear view. He's got rear wing damage there, Joe.
So maybe that's affecting his downforce. Oh, and something happened to Flanagan. The 789 was off track out of turn 8. And I think he has found the wall with that one. Let's take a look at the replay, see if we can analyze this. So turn 7 here.
Yep, gets a little bit squirrely there, but able to keep it under control, lining up through the hurry downs, gets it in, starts to get the power on. It looks like he just oversteers in the quarter, puts the power down too early, tries to correct it, and just gets a little friendly with that tire barrier.
And he messed up his shiny new BMW, unfortunately. He returns in 20th spot without too much damage, but is certainly going to have to buff that one out later down the line. I think we're down to, it looks like 31 cars, if I'm seeing correctly, that are still running. Dropping like flies here, and we're just about halfway through.
Yeah, I mean, that's the perils of Road America. Everybody talks about how this is a driver's favorite track. Well, it's a driver's favorite track because the margins for error are so small. You've got to get these corners absolutely perfectly. As we jump back to P12 here, this is a really good battle between Lorente and Hilton.
Bimmer versus Ferrari. Good exit there for Hilton in the 09. Can he try and get the overtake down into turn 5? He's going to reel him in just a little bit, but this looks too far back to me. Coming over the crest of the braking zone, down into turn 5, looking for that apex, and Lorente is going to miss it, unfortunately. Giving up time, but not the position. Hilton now right on his rear wing.
Hilton's going to be trying to look for a move here. Gets a little bit offline coming out of turn 6, but gets it on to turn 7 nice and easy. Now it's time to line things up. If we stay here and watch him, you can see how he's going to try to take a different line through the carousel, but runs wide again out of turn 8. Now watch this different line. He's going to try to get onto the power a little bit earlier, maximize speed, but he's not really able to do it, and there you can see Lorente pulling away ever so slightly.
Let's keep the cameras here in case he pulls them in Canada corner, but I suddenly saw Chad just rushing down pit lane. It looks like you spotted something with the 801 team. What's going on?
Yeah, the 801 of Keaton Marcheski going into turn number 1, trying to make a move on Jose Malbron. Could not get the move done. He locked up the brakes a little too late. There was some rear-end contact. Both cars went off track wide. Worst of the damage went to that 801 as he got into the tire barrier on entry.
Unfortunate for that team, but they are within the pit window if they do want to jump in. So we'll keep an eye out and see if they join Chad on pit lane. Thanks for that, Chad, as we watch up the front stretch. Hilton looking good off the final corner. The number 9 could be under threat once again. Let's see what the BMW's got in a straight line.
And here they go. This is a tricky braking zone if he tries to take it, and indeed he does not. It's a brush brake there, Joe. It's not a real hard brake, so you're going to be very, very gutsy to make the move there. Turn 2, little bit harder braking. You can see him starting to close up ever so slightly. Now it's powered down to the exit. He runs a little bit wide there, trying to get everything that he can. Hilton now in the draft of Lorente, trying to find something, but I don't think he's closing quite fast enough to get the move unless he's got an extremely hard left foot. No, he's going to stay in line as they go into turn 5.
Still no mistake this time from Eduardo. He learned from last time through there and made sure to hit his marks perfectly, keeping Hilton at bay. But for how long? And let's not forget that they're not too far out of the top 10, so certainly some bragging points for those two. Meanwhile, we've jumped over to Goodway and Davies. That damage must be really hurting Goodway's top speed because Davies is now all over him.
Well, I think it's a combination of his top speed and then his ability to get the power down correctly coming out of fast corners. You saw him in the kink there running a little bit wide. Same thing earlier in the lap. He just doesn't seem to be fully confident on corner exit. That broken rear wing really giving him a lack of downforce.
And the highest non-Audi in the field is also right behind him. That's James David in the black and orange Lambo. As he tries to hustle it along the front stretch to see if he can get an overtake. He's just not quite there. Still, I'm sure if Davies makes an attempt on Goodway, that'll open the doors, and the 89 could have a shot to try and take advantage from that popcorn position. Here we go, off of turn 3. Anybody going to get the good launch? Looks pretty good for James.
It does indeed. This could be a good moment. That pointy end of the Lambo trying to get in behind the Audi, see what he can do here. Is he going to go for a late braking move? He thinks about it. No, he's going to slide back into line. And as they go through turn 5 here, everybody looks like they keep it relatively nice and clean. I just want to point out up the road, Joe, Gutierrez has been able to reduce that gap to Morales to just a second.
Get spicy if the 10 is able to challenge for the victory and continue his streak into a hat trick here. Meanwhile, this is a much closer fight between 3rd, 4th, and 5th as they come up to the carousel. Let's see if Goodway is struggling through here. Let's see if the rear wing forcing him to get a little bit loose. So far, no. That car planted down through that long right-hander, and in fact gets himself a pretty decent exit on top of it.
Yeah, he does. I think Goodway may have a line directly into the commentary booth and says, you know what, DJ, I'm going to prove you wrong. My car's just fine. So there you can see him getting the speed down well through Canada now, able to get that gap back up and try to break away from his teammate.
When are we going to see drivers pop into pit lane? Looks like many of them opting for a later strategy. As we come out of the final corner, very good exit for Goodway. Could see even before he was out of the corner, stretching away from the 75, but he himself seems to have a pretty decent run here. Don't think we're going to see any sort of overlap up into the first corner as this trio heads there, spots their brake markers, slows the cars up. Then it's the short stretch down to 3 to just a bit of a nothing corner, almost quite literally. You can see it's that tiny little kink there in the road, slightly off the apex for Goodway. Davies sees it, and he's looking like he might want to pounce.
He may be trying to go for a pounce, and that's Drew DeWeese right in front of them. Lap traffic, we talked about it coming into play. So is this going to be a moment here for any of these drivers? We ride on board. There, you see the braking from David. DeWeese right ahead of them in that slow Lamborghini. He's got to get out of the way, or this is going to get very, very interesting.
He's going to stay off to the right here in turn 6. It will compromise them a little bit. All three of them having to take a bit of an awkward line. As mentioned, the 5-2-3, one of our pitters. Chad's been keeping tabs on who else has completed their scheduled stop. What's the story?
Yeah, we've seen 6 cars so far come to pit road. Semkowicz, Cowgill, Malbron, Rossi, and looks like Schilling is the first car out there on track that has, or the leader of the cars that have pitted. He's currently running 24th.
Trio on screen continues on around. Waiting to see who blinks first amongst them. I mean, if you were David and seeing all this fighting in front of you, DJ, would you take the risk? Maybe call it in a lap or two early?
Honestly, Joe, I think I'm going to try to stretch as long as I can. We've seen this happen time and time again. The less fuel you have to put in the car, the less time you've got to spend stationary on pit lane. And I don't want to give these guys any opportunity to jump me, so I'm going to try to hold out to the last possible minute.
Still seeing if he can pull one over on the Audis. Nope, he's going with my thoughts then. James David down to pit lane, heading towards Chad. Chad, what can you tell us?
Clean entry, getting a full tank of fuel, or at least getting the maximum that he can take on for the rest of this race. As we're under 15 minutes to go, we'll have to just keep things clean and see how this pit strategy plays out with the early stop.
Cycles down the order as those who have stayed out continue on. Looks like Genet is also coming in. Arnaud hits the pit line. It's a long ways to your stall. You can see how long it took for the Lambo to reach his tent. Not expecting anybody to take tires, so just waiting for the fuel to get in. Most of them doing 12 to 13 seconds. It's a bit long for David. It's very long for David. Oh, this is unusual. This is highly unusual. What is happening for the number 12? Or 89, excuse me.
Did he have a pit lane violation, Joe?
Could be, maybe, or it could have been that he racked. No, we couldn't have racked up too many offs because the drive-through would send him all the way straight through, and he can't serve that at the same time that he takes his pit stop. Something is wrong with James David Lamborghini, and he has been sitting in his stall for just far too long. We'll come back and try to suss it out later. We'll see if Chad can maybe get some info from the team and see what's going on. Meanwhile, up at the front, Utretis continues to chip away. The number 10 is now within 7/10 of the 33.
Yeah, this battle, as promised, is getting very, very exciting as they work their way through Canada corner, keeping it just wide enough to maximize speed. Utreris just slowly but surely, 10th by lap, lap after lap, bringing in Morales, and now it comes down to pit strategy. Are they going to come in here on this lap? We watch him come out of turn 14, and yes, both of them come down pit lane.
Oh, not Utretis. He was just trying to steal as much draft as possible. So he seems like, wow, not only is he fast, he's got a pretty light right foot. That will allow him to go one more lap if he can stretch it around. Morales is in, Goodway is in, Davies also follows, Tremblay, Menino. It looks like it's becoming a bit of a party down for you, Chad.
No, it's getting crazy down here. I'm still running up and down pit road trying to figure out what happened to the 89, but as I'm trying to figure that out, it looks like cars coming in left and right, getting their stops, and nobody seems to have as much trouble as we saw the 89.
Yeah, Morales hits his stall, and he's the first one out. Very good stop at a 10.5 for the 33. Davies with a 10.7, and another one that has saved fuel very, very well. 10.6 for Tremblay. Goodway is in long.
He is taking repairs to that rear wing, it looks like, so he's just going to try to get as much of that aero fixed as he can as he tried to get that wing straightened out.
Oh, boy. So it was enough that he felt the suffering merited trying to get it fixed, and it's costing him many positions. Costello is by. He's down to 10th effectively at this point. This is all legitimate, as those are drivers that have pitted like he has. At this point, the only one ahead of him that hasn't pitted, that he's definitely not going to jump, is our leader, NinjaTrader.
Yeah, NinjaTrader is currently working his way past the kink right now. And there you see Morales. That's the... I'm not sure who that is.
That's Goodway.
These cars look the same in certain ways. Is there you see Goodway after that long stop coming out that rear wing. Hopefully more repaired as he comes back out.
Yeah, it looks like they weren't able to do a whole lot to it, judging by this onboard. Javi's coming around, and it looks like he is in. So the 10 now heads to pit lane. For those watching, Morales is now through the kink, heading towards Canada corner.
He is, and he had a very scary moment. It was the 801 of Marcheschi. Lost it coming out of the kink in front of him, spun across the track, but he's able to keep the power down and keep going. Morales here, you see him working his way down as Utreres comes to rest right about now in his pit stall.
All the way to the second to last at the lane. And here comes Morales. Morales is under the bridge. Utreres still taking service, 10.7. It's a good one. He's out. It's going to be extremely close. We heard he was pushing, and he was definitely pushing enough. Look at this. He is ahead of Diego after the pit stops. Your new leader is the number 10.
Wow, amazing in-lap there from Javi, and a really, really good pit service in and out. That is the advantage of taking just that 1 lap's less of fuel. You can make it work like that, and he has now gotten himself a 1.5 second gap on Diego Morales.
So that changes the complexion of things, and even Diego Morales, despite having the 1 lap pace over Utreres, doesn't seem to have the race pace thus far, but it's not over. Still 9 minutes to go, and then a 1.5 seconds between. That's bigger than what it was between the two of them when Utreres was behind before the pit stops. That must have been a mega lap that he had.
Absolutely mega. As I look at it, I mean, he was just pushing like mad. He was only 10 seconds off of his fastest lap of the race, and that is including going into his pit stall. So absolutely mega there from Javi.
Very much pushing. You can see him kicking up a little bit of dust on the entry into the kink. Not something you want to do all that often. They've also really jumped Michael Davies back there in third. It's 5.5 seconds to third place. So they are free to battle in these last few laps without having to worry too much about what's coming up behind.
Yeah, as we tick just over 8 minutes to go by my math. That's probably 3, maybe 4 laps, depending on how you break it down. So these guys are going to be going as fast and as hard as they can, although I will say Morales able to get that gap under 1 second on this past lap.
He's gaining. So did Utreres maybe short fuel just a little bit? Is Morales able to push harder at the end to try and get that back? Or is this a hint of the slipstream that is allowing him to close in? Now, remember James David being out of position. He's in 14th. He's already caught up to some cars and might be able to get some passes. Unfortunately for him, it's the blinking Gallo just ahead, making life very annoying. To Palacio, though. This is for 7th place. 666 and the Ferrari versus Palacio's BMW 194.
Palacio's really been able to put in some good laps here. He was 0.2 quicker on that last lap over Secklin. So this is really turning out to be good. Here comes the BMW in the draft. You can see it starting to suck up behind that Ferrari. Dives to the inside. It looks like Secklin's thinking about trying to cut him off. He's going to be late on the brakes. Who's got the guts to pull it off? That's going to be Palacio out of turn 5.
Up into 7th. Oh, and something's happened to our leader. Morales is in 3rd, or no, excuse me, our 2nd place driver. I think, yes, he wrecked out of turn 7. Let's get a replay here of the 33. and it was a big hit on the right side.
So here we go. We talked about how tricky that corner can be sometimes, but he keeps it nice and collected. Now through the fast looper of 6, almost flat out, gets too far onto the grass, and big hit into the tire barrier.
He is limping. Oh, we come back live. He almost got hit in the rear by Jean-Marc Tremblay, who just passed him as he was struggling to keep the car from weaving. Oh my goodness, look at how slow he is puttering along. A nightmare scenario for our pole sitter, who could have been looking at a win, was closing back in on the leader to reclaim that top spot, and it just all fell through his fingers.
Yeah, and look at that car, Joe. He's just got absolutely nothing. You see him trying to steer in a straight line, kicking it to the left. Yeah, he's going to be coming into the pits.
And into pit lane he goes to take repairs. Who knows when he'll be able to come back out. We'll have Chad on that to see when he's able to return to the race. That promotes Davies up into second, Tremblay into third. How about David Menino? Quiet race today for him, up to fourth, but it might not be quiet for long because the Lambo of Genet is now right on top of him.
Yeah, he is very much trying to press an advantage over that BMW. As we see it here again, this is that draft coming into play. Can he do anything? I think he's a little far back even for that Lamborghini, which is known to have some pretty good top speed. So he's just going to have to keep it nice and steady. You see him ducking out to the inside a little bit, playing a little bit of those mind games. Very good under braking, Joe. I would not be surprised if we see Genet really trying to press his advantage, maybe as early as Canada Corner.
Yeah, if he's able to break that late down into turn 5, he surely has got a good opportunity if he gets within a car length or two. Continues to track down that BMW down into turn 8. Some blinking problems, though, that we've seen a couple times here from Menino. Unfortunately, making life even more difficult for the Canadian driver. They come around through the carousel. This is much closer. This is a good opportunity, DJ.
He's got a great run here. He really and truly does. Genet just powering down, getting full advantage of the draft, weaving this way and that, trying to psych out Menino a little bit. He's going to try this around the outside potentially as Menino goes offensive. He's not going to be able to do it. Genet looking for the over-under. Not going to be able to get it done there, but he clearly has the speed off of those corners.
Well, he strikes, but that Lambo has not found first blood yet. Let's see if he can do it in 2 more laps, because they are running out of time.
It is indeed. Didn't get quite a good of a run there off of turn 14 as we've seen him do previously, but I think the heavy braking into no, excuse me, here he comes with a full head of steam to the outside, going to try to keep the momentum up going into turn 1. Can Genet do it here? Oh, the blink is very scary. He makes it. He backs off a little bit, going to keep it nice in line. We've seen him better on the brakes. Can he get it done to 2 to get the run down into 5?
Let's watch and see. It doesn't look good. I think he's just a little bit too far back. He's going to definitely pull him in. The draft has been decent here today in the GT3s for sure. But yep, there you can see, though the car is towing, it's just not close enough for anything. Unless he takes a really wild dive. Once again, gains under braking. That gives us a shot to check back in with Chad. I understand you've been waiting down at Morales and not with good news.
No, it took him a long time to get down to this very first pit stall on pit road, and he pancaked the wall real hard. We saw his steering all the way to the left as he tried to just keep the car straight coming on down this long, hilly pit road, and unfortunately, it looks like he's likely not going to be able to get back out there, and that's just unfortunate for the driver. This is number 33. He was running such a clean race up there in P2, and unfortunately, looks like his day might be done.
So not even going to be able to see the checkered flag. He should still score points, but it's probably a little consolation for him today. Meanwhile, Menino just in and out like a ghost today, and Genet is not liking that, if I know or know. We've got the white flag coming out right now as our leader, Utredes, is set to get a hat trick pretty soon. All he has to do is keep the thing planted on the black stuff.
Yeah, and Javi has just driven an absolutely spectacular race up in front there. Very, very few mistakes. He was cautious off the start and able to now get himself up to a 7-second lead. So really, really good run. He works his way down here through that sort of nothing turn 2 into turn 3. And there you see your second place car of Michael Davies. Good, solid, consistent run from the SimMSA driver. And here comes Menino on the outside of turn 1 again.
Genet trying to go the long way around, and once again just can't find the grip. Great defense from David. Menino comes back to the racing line into turn 3. This is a much better exit than last lap for Arnaud Genet. He's got a very good opportunity with the way that the braking of that Lamborghini has looked thus far this race. This could be a slam dunk. Staying to the left side of the track. Menino once again defensive. Genet sends it in deep. Maybe an over-under here as he tries to launch off the corner. No, once again, he's covered off.
He is not going to try a pass-through Corvette. Oh, that's a real tricky way to do it. You see the over-under not working there. That off-camber corner, very, very difficult in the blind apex. He's really only got about one more shot here, Joe, and that's going into Canada.
Sticking with him. He hasn't lost touch too much. As long as he can withstand the dirty air through both the carousel and the kink, he could have this one. The bad news is we might not be able to see it. Hopefully the timing works out, because I can tell you that Utretta's just went through Canada quarter himself. Bill Mitchell bend, and the final turn is all he has to go as the number 10 comes out of that last right-hander. He won the first 2 rounds. He got the pole at the first 2 rounds. He got the fastest lap at the first 2 rounds. This time, he's only going to be able to get the win, but that awards the most points as Javi Utreras takes victory here at Road America.
Mega win, and here comes Michael Davies to cross the line in P2, picking up the pieces from his fallen teammates. And Jean-Marc Tremblay, a very quiet run there from the SRT Esports Blue driver, but gets on the podium nonetheless. Kudos to him. Behind them, David Menino able to hold off Arnaud Genet for that 4th place.
He fought valiantly, but the 312 is just going to have to settle for a top 5 today. We've got a little bit of a battle for 12th. Lorente ahead of Cochran. And let's see how these two wind up. Both of them up many positions. They come out of the final quarter. Not sure that Cochran's able to really close the deal here. In fact, he was way too slow off that final corner compared to the BMW. So Lorente will claim P12.
They've got to be very happy with that regardless, both up 14 and 15 places respectively. So a really good heads-up drive there. Some of the times what you just have to do at Road America is stay out of trouble, and you will find yourself well up the order, exactly what those guys did here today.
And that's going to be most of our finishers. I'm not seeing any battles from here on down the order. So as the last of our 25 drivers on the lead lap cross the line, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Welcome back to Road America. We had an interesting round 3 where Javi Utreras looked like maybe he had some others with the measure of him. Excuse me if I can get my words out here. That it just seemed like other people finally had something for that number 10, but in the end, he was the most consistent. He was the quickest. He had the best strategy. And despite starting in second place, he couldn't be beaten. Michael Davies did earn a second place with Jean-Marc Tremblay going up from 7th to 3rd. Menino fighting hard up 7 spots, 11th to 4th, with Arnaud Genet hot on his heels across the line, finishing 5th. Julio Palacio was a P6, followed by Aldo Secklin. Another one that was pretty quiet, but still held a good 7th place. Tony Costello in 8th was followed by Lewis Goodway, falling from 4th to 9th, mysteriously with a long pit stop. And James David rounds out your top 10.
Hugo Gallo putting his Ferrari into P11, followed by Edler Lorenze and Barry Cochran in 12th and 13th. Matt Hilton able to come home 14th, followed by Christopher Rins in 16th. Jose Malbron 16th. Jorge Flores and Brian Hotham in 17th and 18th. David Flanagan able to come home 19th, followed by Kenny Rodriguez in 20th.
Jay Shallington was 21st with Brett Thurman, then the 22nd spot. How about Gary Schilling? Qualified 39th, finished 23rd. Spitvich was 24th, followed by Nicholas Nolivos in 25th. He was the only driver to not set a lap time in qualifying. From there, we get into lap down cars. Drew DeWeese, Brian Rossi, Patrick Cowgill, all a lap down, 25th, 6th, 27th, 28th. Diego Morales, our first DNF, in 29th and 30th was Josue Tellez, also not finishing. Everybody else behind them, unfortunately, did not see the checkered flag. That'll take us to our 3rd place finisher, Jean-Marc Tremblay, here today, climbing up from 7th. Jean-Marc, that's got to feel good being able to snag a podium, especially as how intense the competition here is in the GT3 series.
Yeah, it was so tough having a good qualifying lap. I was fortunate enough that I was following my teammate Julio, and got a pretty good qualifying lap in. And and from there on, just kept it clean. The guys in front made some mistakes, so that's how I got here.
Well, obviously getting to spray the champagne is going to feel good here for this one, but the next round that we are covering at Silverstone. Let me double check to see where we head for the next round, though. How do you feel moving on into round 4? Do you think this is a sign of momentum heading in your favor?
Well, not sure really. Silverstone is a good track for me. Last week also was a good track at the Nürburgring, but unfortunately I made a mistake while I was in P2 in the pits, speeding penalty. That's why I kept it clean and simple on this race. I'm looking forward to the next races.
Small correction for myself. Oran Park is the next race we are covering on January 25th there, in case anybody was getting confused. Regardless, fantastic job out there today. Is there anybody you'd like to thank for managing a third today at Road America?
Well, just a big thanks to you guys and the PRL, and thank you to all the SRT team. Great bunch of guys, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, thanks for talking to us, Jean-Marc Tremblay in the 127, managing to pull it home in 3rd place. And in the meantime, DJ has caught up with our 2nd place finisher, Mike Davies.
Well, Mike, it was a bit of a race of attrition out there for you and your SimMSA teammates, but looked like it was a good amount of battling, especially right at the start with that back and forth with Javi. Talk us through a crazy race.
I don't even know what to comment about that start, because he literally was inches from wrecking the entire field. But to be honest, I think I drove a pathetic race. I should have been a lot closer to Javi in the end. And it's just on to next week for me.
Well, moving on to next week, then we're headed to Oran Park. How do you feel about your chances there as we take a little bit of time off before we get to that one?
I'll be happy if I don't finish in a wall. I've only ever driven the track in the TCR car, so it's a world's different altogether. It's just, yeah, we'll see. We should be all right. We'll do some work in the week and see how we go.
Well, it'll be a good one to watch for sure, as I think most people are like you, not real familiar with that track. But before we let you go, my friend, anybody you need to thank tonight?
The whole team at SimMSA. Craig set up shop finding setups for us. Linford, the team boss, for helping us out with as much as he does, and Lewis and Diego for being great teammates. Yourselves for the broadcast.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. And I believe, Joe, you have caught up with our race winner 3 times in a row, Javi.
Saving the best for last. Javi, congratulations on the hat trick. I noticed that you managed poles and fastest laps in the first 2 rounds, and you managed the fastest lap here today, but not the pole. Does it bother you at all that you didn't sweep it all?
Well, I mean, it was hard, the quali. We got very, very close. I was looking to improve the time, but definitely, I mean, I didn't do a good job on my last lap, which I probably improve a little bit better. But hey, this is racing. Sometimes you can have it all. Sometimes you can have nothing. At least today I didn't have the pole, but at least the win. So definitely that helps to the team for sure.
Now, from our perspective, it looked like you and Davies had contact twice before you even saw the start-finish line. We heard his perspective on it. What's your thoughts about what happened there?
It was all my fault. I didn't know. I didn't see him that he was that close or closing the gap to the right, because Diego was moving to the left, and I was trying to get a little more behind Diego, and it's all my fault. I want to really apologize to the team, to Michael, because he definitely I put my race and Michael race on risk, and that definitely is my fault.
Well, it's very admirable hearing you own up to it. Not every driver would be willing to publicly admit to that. Still, you also had an impressive in-lap as well with your pit stop strategy. How in the world did you manage to jump Diego in just 1 lap like that?
Well, let me tell you, I think this was probably the most strategy race, most intense strategy I've been racing. I racing all the time, thanks to my spotter, Mauri Granda. Sorry, it was a lot of strategy, and I noticed that I was trying to sell fuel at the beginning, but I noticed that Lewis was getting very close, and it was very aggressive to pass. So I didn't want to risk the race, so I decided to push and then trying to save some more fuel, and I just tried to do quali lap, and when I stayed in the truck for 1 more lap, and I think that paid off, and I was able to pass him. So from there, I was trying to keep the pace, and unfortunately, Diego made a mistake. Otherwise, I think he will be very close at the end.
Well, that was massively impressive there. And again, congratulations on 3 wins in a row. Anybody you'd like to thank, sir?
Yeah, definitely all my teammates and Radicals Latam, especially Mauri Granda, that did a phenomenal job today in the spotting. It was awesome, and definitely current field simulation, track racer, sideways, TC Core, Joel Real Time, and all the people that's behind this great team. So thank you very much to all of them.
There's your winner, Javi Utres, in the number 10, managing to pull the lap out of the bag that may have made the difference and snagged him the win today. We're going to close out with some big thank yous to our sponsors, of course, starting with SIMMSA.net. That is Simulation Motorsports Affinity, if you want to see how you can get involved with the world of sim racing. And NinjaTrader. Their website is at NinjaTrader.com. And then if you've got a sim rig and you want to make it that much more fancy, check out ButtKicker, and they are, of course, at thebuttkicker.com. Thanks go to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast. We've listed them on our screen. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who does all of our music. You can find her Bandcamp there as well. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, Dougie, and Chad. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store It is gsrc.storeenvy.com. You get a link in the description below where, while you're there, make sure and subscribe to GSRC. As we mentioned, the next race that we are covering is in 2 weeks' time. It'll be Oran Park at Monday, January 25th, 9 p.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. In fact, if you wait just a little bit, the Porsche Owners Club is going to Silverstone for the start of their year-long season, and that kicks off at 10:45 p.m. Eastern. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, see you on the track.